everybody. I'm here with great designer Richard Borg, and we're going to be talking about a lot of his stuff out here at Prototype Con. So let me start off with your first game, Liar's Dice. It's one of my favorites. You know, I run the tournament at WBC.
You do, and he does a great job.
And how did that come about where you said, I think I'm going to work on a design?
Actually, that wasn't the first design I did. We were working with TSR on a number of projects prior to doing Liar's Dice. If you look in some of the credits on some of the earlier TSR stuff, I'm listed as a playtester or a rogue guy or whatever. Mm-hmm. So but Liar's Dice came about. I had just moved to a new JCPenney store. I was in the management program of JCPenney, and I actually was a pretty good ball player at that time. You know, we played a lot of softball and stuff. And when we went to, and I got on a new softball team, and these guys played a little different than our church league and stuff, because after a game they went out and had a few beers, and so I noticed that after every time we were playing, everybody liked to play Liar's Poker or Liar's Poker with dollar bills, you know, and then you'd say how many sixes or fives or whatever you have. And even the girls, even the wives and stuff would be enjoying that. And so I said, well, hey, if we're having so much fun with that, maybe there's a way that we could utilize dice and come up with some kind of gameplay that we could do, the same bidding action. So we added a board, we added basically the dice. Everybody had 5 dice and you rolled the dice, but even at that it wasn't quite right, because we knew that if that's the game, anybody could sit down and just design the game themselves and didn't need a game. So we put a wild side on the dice, and then we also actually just adjusted the board accordingly for the die. We then said, this is great. My parents liked it, my mom's liked it, my dad liked it, everybody liked it, the friends that played it liked it. So we said, this is going to be awesome. We're going to make millions of dollars. So we then self-published Liar's Dice. Now, by today's standards and what you can do with a computer and the graphic arts and all that, ours was terrible. We had a recipe box with a wrap on it that said Liar's Dice and some plastic cups and regular dice. And I put little stars on the ones. And so that was and we took it to a Gen Con. And we had a table. And we spent a few $1,000s with all this stuff. We made up a bunch of prototypes. And on the way home, I told my wife, I'm sorry. We just failed because we only had sold 3 copies of the game.
3.
One of the copies that we did sell was to a guy that worked for the Milton Bradley Company. And he took it back to Milton Bradley, and shortly after that he gave me a call and said, Rich, we're not going to do this game. It's just not going to work for our line. I'm going, well, we didn't really lose anything. We had the game. A company had it. That was great. And then as the story goes, and I can't verify this, but as the story goes from another person that worked at Milton Bradley, at a Christmas party, it was in the fall, so in a Christmas party, these guys are all sitting around the table, and the guys from Hasbro or Milton Bradley are all sitting around the table. And the CEO of Hasbro comes in and says, Merry Christmas and everything. What are you guys doing? You look like you're having fun over there. We're playing a game, Doubter's Dice here. This is a game, and it's really pretty good. And he goes, okay, so when are we doing it? And the guy goes, well, we're not going to do it. The marketing and stuff said there was no way that we could do it. And he said, well, if we're all having fun with it, why don't we do it? So the phone call came back like 2 days later and said, you know what, we're going to do the game. And I go, well, thank you very much.
Wow. And it's such an amazing game. It's obviously done. FX Schmidt did it in Germany. It's been everywhere now. And
sure.
Pirates of the Caribbean, if you've seen the second movie, Pirates of the Caribbean, they play the game in Pirates of the Caribbean, but they don't actually call it Liar's Dice.
No.
They call it the Pirates dice, and they made a Pirates of the Caribbean version.
They did, and I didn't get credit for that. So no royalties on that one.
No royalties. So those of you out the Pirates of the Caribbean, I think that was a Disney movie. Disney, you owe this man royalties for that game.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So another old game that you did, Harun Zeus, which is a very Stratego-like game.
Yes, yeah. Back in the day, again, because I started to get to know all the people in the industry, especially in the Hasbro, Milton Bradley, Pressman Toy, and things. They had contacted me and said, hey, you know what? We're thinking about doing a line of games, a line of card games. Could we take some of our original, licenses like Monopoly and Stratego and those type of things and make them into card games? So I was challenged to do that, and we actually, the Harun Zeus actually was Stratego cards before I actually, and the Risk cards was another one too. But as the climates change at Hasbro or Milton Bradley, after a year or so, well, we don't really want to do card games, so I took that game and we took it over as Harun Zeus and sold it to Cosmos. Now that is going to be released, a version of it is going to be released this coming year called Thunder and Lightning. Has to do with
Thor and Loki. Thor and Loki, and slightly changed powers too, right?
Oh yeah. Some more cards and some extra benefits.
I'm looking forward to that one. I mean, I liked Harun Zeus a lot. It was one of the little Cosmos Rio Grande small box games.
Sure.
And now we're going to get grander artwork and everything, right?
Right. New artwork, some new cards, etc. And people told me that it was kind of like playing Magic the Gathering with a set number of cards. You just could play and one game would change to the next. You never had to change any cards or anything like that, and it just flowed pretty well.
Yes. It's one of my favorites too.
Well, thanks.
Of that whole series, I mean, there was a lot of good small box games. You did another one of those.
Yeah, we won't talk about that one. It didn't do quite as well.
We'll skip over Heave Ho. You did another one of the small box games at the time. But the game that you're most known for is definitely Command and Colors Everything.
Yeah, Command and Colors history.
It started with Battle Cry.
It started with Battle Cry, and that's another interesting story. It's just by luck rather than by fortune or by design that it happened, is that I had showed that to Milton Bradley at least 3 times. They had it for a couple months. They would send it back and say, it's not really going to fit into our line. And then after about the 3rd time, I was at actually it was called Avalon Hill Con, and I showed it to the guys at Avalon Hill. And they said, this is awesome. It's going to be that gateway game that we've been looking for to take it from,
heavy war to simple war.
Oh, yeah, and then maybe we can sell, if we get those guys early in the simple, we're going to take it into the more complex. And so they said, we'll do it. And it's about a month or 2 after that, you know what? Avalon Hill was bought by Hasbro.
Coast, yes.
And so then I'm calling the guys at Hasbro going, hey, listen, you have my Battle Cry under contract. You might as well do it. And they go, well, matter of fact, we're going to do a series of game. And they did Stratego Legends, was it?
Yeah.
Battle Cry.
Queen's Gambit.
Yeah,
sorry that you guys can't get that anymore.
Queen's Gambit. And then...
History of the World, they did a reprint.
Yeah, they did History of the World, and there was
Trail in the House on the Hill was one of the first ones.
So they did a whole bunch of them, and it was in that group that our game got published, and it did fairly well as far as all the games that they did in that little series. It was one of the better sellers, but it still didn't have the 300,000 copies that Hasbro likes to have.
But you obviously have expanded on that many, many times. You did Memoir 44.
Memoir 44, yep.
And you did Battle Lore. So those were the 2 you did with Days of Wonder.
Days of Wonder, yep. And GMT, we did the
Command and Colors.
Napoleonics and Ancients.
Yep, exactly. And you have the Great War.
Great War is coming out, actually it's already out. The Plastic Soldier Company in Great Britain. Samurai Battles was one that we did with Zvezda in Russia. So, and we have another one coming, the American Revolution coming in from Compass Games, and that should be this year too.
Oh, nice. So there's
Yep.
another one coming out.
Yep.
Is that one going to be blocks like the
It'll be
GMTs?
blocks. Yeah.
So it won't be the minis like Battle.
No, they tried to price it. Compass is a rather small gaming company, and once again, the cost of miniatures are it's just too much.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So they're going to do that as far as American Rev, and there's like 12 battles in it. I don't think they've actually even put it up on their pre-order thing yet, but it's all done. It's ready to go. It's just a matter of them doing all the final artwork and graphics.
So how did you come up for the system for this? I mean, it's so simple. It's like this. It's one of the simplest war games, but yet it's so much fun to play. How did you come up with the system of I'm going to roll the dice, remove the units as you go?
Basically, I've been playing miniatures for a long, long time. Right after college, I got into a miniature group, and we were playing all kinds of miniatures. And actually, the real problem with miniatures gaming is that if you sat down and played a game, a lot of times you'd never come to an end. And I also had played a lot of board games, and I was just saying, well, hey, if we could bring those two elements together, that you have the simplicity of a board game with hexes and stuff, and actually still have the thrill of moving miniatures around the board, I think they would marry very well. And so it just so happens that I had gotten transferred with the Penny Company to a new location, which was out of the Chicagoland area where all my game groups were. And so now I'm sitting there with months on my hand with no gamers to game with. And so I had just recently purchased a collection of American Civil War miniatures, and I sat down, and if you think about battle cry, it's very logical.
Yeah.
Infantry moves so far, cannons if they move, the way they shoot, the number of figures in a unit, it's all kind of mathematical.
Yes.
And so it was just one of those things that, okay, this all worked, and then I took it up to the guys in Chicago, and we sat down and played it, and it was like, this is awesome. It was like, this is great. And then I go back down to Central Illinois there, and they go, just before emails and stuff, so this is all letters or phone calls. We got we got American Rev, we have World War II, we got Napoleonics. Do you think the system would work in those things? So we were messing around with all that back in the late 70s, early 80s. So a lot of that all was kind of designed at that same time.
So I've heard mumblings that you're working on other versions of this. Besides, you obviously did, most of them are historical, but you did Battle Lore, which is completely fantasy, and I've heard
Yep.
mumblings about space.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think I really want to talk about that. Sorry, not at this point. We'll just let it just go like
There's
that.
mumblings,
Yeah.
but I think it'll be cool. No matter
Yeah.
what it is, if it's
Yeah.
in space, it's going to be cool.
It is. There's a lot of the games that people, when they get it in the store and they buy it, we've already done it about a couple of years ago. So some of that stuff is like old school. So we've already played around with some space type things and some ground battles in space, and we all have experienced 40K. So that's to be truthful with, a lot of the game that we play is with those figures because that's what we have. And a lot of the guys in our game group are ex-40K players or ex-40 Warhammer players. So they came, and now are playing Commands and Colors just because they came from that venue. So that's why. Interesting story about the battle lore. Not to get off the subject of space.
No, don't worry. We can go back to Battle Lore. It's back in print again. So
Battle Lore, the original version, that was the game that actually broke my house almost, because we would be playing games of Battle Lore, and I don't have a big house. I have basically one bedroom in Florida. We don't have basements. But it's a one bedroom that's kind of dedicated to my war game room or my gaming room. And when we were playing Battle Lore, on a Wednesday night, there usually be 20 guys that come over to try to play. Mm-hmm. Now, there's just no way that we could play 20 guys in that room. So we would have like series. Okay, 3 guys would come in, the winners would stay, the losers would go out. I got my quarter on the table for the next batch. You also have to remember that in any of these games that we're talking about, all the commands and colors games, every one of those games, I don't have the stuff that's in the box. I have miniatures. I have thousands of miniatures. I have like Napoleonic armies. I've got Civil War armies. I've got all this fantasy stuff. So when Days of Wonder says, Rich, I think we need to have hobgoblins on ostriches with bows. When we would go to play a game, my game group would say, unless you have hobgoblins with bows on ostriches, we're not going to play. So I had to have hobgoblins with bows on ostriches or cobble those guys together somehow in order to do it. So I've got all the stuff that's in all the games in miniatures.
All I'm learning here is that if I wanted to play the Super Deluxe Edition, I need to come to your house more often.
You could come all the time. And we also play at, we're in Orlando, so we're in the Orlando area. We play down at Sci-Fi City, which is, I'm plugging that game store because they're very generous with their space. Because a lot of the games, and the games we play is on 5-inch hexes. So we're not playing on the 55 millimeter hexes. We got 5-inch hexes,
nice.
25 millimeter troops, so the whole thing.
Nice.
So it's all, but we had to do that because we don't have the wood blocks or we don't have the Memoir 44 figures. I've got tanks. I got this. My wife probably says I have way too much. I know my attic's starting to sag. So.
I want to come over your house and play those.
That's it.
So what else do you have in the works coming up? Anything new that you're developing?
Most of the stuff that I'm working on right now is all just expansions for stuff that is already out. And taking a look from a designer's point and from a businessman's point, I can do expansions for those games and get paid. If I do speculative work, which basically is work that, I can design a game and bring it and show it to people. It's work that sometimes I don't sell. So this way, and most of my time then is spent on, hey, I got so many different projects with the World War I, with the World War II, with Ancients, Napoleonics, and fantasy that I can do expansions and still pay the bills, which is good that I don't have to do a lot of speculative. But that doesn't mean I'm not. I got other things on the side that I'm working on.
But a lot of expansions. So for all of you there watching, if you want more commands and color stuff from any of the sets, there's more stuff on the way, lots of it, as you just heard.
More than enough. Yes.
More than enough.
More than enough. And we're not really trying to get every dollar out of you. Honest. We're really not. But it might seem that way. I think the biggest thing right now is the two things. The Compass Games one with the American Rev, that'll be out this year.
Yes.
And that'll be kind of cool because if you played any of the Commands and Colors game, you'll realize that we try very, 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 very hard to make the gameplay like history reads.
Yes.
And if we can accomplish that, so when you're playing World War I, you're not playing Battle Cry. You're not playing American Civil War. You're not playing, it all has we really try to get the proper historical feel.
I know, and that's why, like, all of us, like me and Sam especially, love Memoir 44. Tom, too. We all love the game because it really feels like World War II. Like, you're there, you're storming the beaches of Normandy. It really feels like that, and that's what makes these games great.
Sure. Well, thanks.
Well, thank you. Thanks for coming here. And again, Jason Levine doing a designer spotlight with Richard Borg, famous designer, here at Prototype Con.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.